Problem with bridge builders, if you are such a person, is inherent within that people walk over you. So you need a pretty thick skin and a pretty strong back because if you want to bring two sides together, there's going to be challenges. And I want to talk a little bit about in Interfaith Harmony Week the emergence and the re-emergence of faith as a national phenomenon, and actually the dangers as well, from my experience. Robin's given me an introduction better than I could ever do for myself, and some of which is probably true. But I have a real passion to see bridges built between sides that think they are against each other, when sometimes they aren't really. There's other things going on beneath the surface within the people who are allegedly against each other. And I want to unpack that a little bit and give some really practical ways that if you're a bridge builder, you can approach those situations, but also some of the things I'm noticing, not just in the UK, but when I'm traveling overseas with different people as well. I was saying earlier on, I've forgotten your name, sir, but I was saying earlier on that there's a few things that I can see emerging in the UK and overseas. We've had a situation where for many years now, where religion and faith has been a punchback, where people are being told that actually faith is a problem, faith shouldn't exist, religion should not be in the public square. People, if you believe in God, it's like you're believing in the spaghetti monster, etc. We've heard all that. And the story that we've been told is that actually, if you cut God, whoever you think he, she, or it is, out of the equation and actually believe a secular narrative and go for these different things, then your life will be full. The problem is, it doesn't seem to have worked because people are re-engaging with faith for all sorts of reasons. There's a man who I was deeply impacted by who wrote as a result of the Holocaust. You can read his book, Victor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and he was an existential philosopher. And what the blazes is existentialism? Well, we live in a society where people, and you can see it around the world, where people are looking for something. People want to believe in something. And if you've been told that belief in God is stupid and you shouldn't believe in God and God doesn't exist, and actually believe in this thing over here, and the thing that you're being given to believe in somehow doesn't work, what do you do? Well, human beings are meaning-making creatures, wonderfully made. So we look for something to put our trust and our hope in. And you've got a couple of things happening in society, I think. You've got the re-emergence of faith, where people are saying, well, perhaps I do want to believe in God. So you're seeing an uptick in attendance in religious organizations, churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples. You're seeing that swell. You're also seeing a group of people who have completely lost faith and lost hope, and they're disillusioned. And it's called black pilling. And black pilling is basically where you think there's nothing to live for, there's nothing to hope for, so I'll just live for myself. You're seeing an uptick in suicide. You're seeing all these different things. In that context, we're also seeing people latching onto certainty. Yeah. And certainty can sometimes look like extremism. So you've got a society that over X 30, 40 years has said, God doesn't exist, don't believe in all that kind of stuff. People have tried that, and for many people, it isn't working. So people are saying, I want to believe in God. So people then latch onto that version or a version of God, or they completely lose hope altogether. Within those people latching onto versions of God, some have a loving, generous, curious, kind, generous orthodoxy. Some are latching onto a version of God which is extremist, maximalist, my way or the highway. And because people have been empty, I think, those people I've spoken to for such a long time, they're easily radicalized. Let me tell you a story. I was talking to a man several months ago now, and he'd served in the British military. and he served for the purpose of whatever for many, many years. And he'd seen many of his friends killed in action, and many of his friends post-action who committed suicide. And he was looking for meaning and purpose. And he was approached by some people who said, hey, we can give you something to believe in because we're better when we believe in something. But the challenge is, what is the something that we believe in? And he started to believe in a story and in a narrative that actually said, it's the fault of those other people over there. It's the fault of what they've done. And you begin to join the dots. And he quickly moved from a place of belonging because he wanted to belong. And faith gives us an opportunity to belong. But he moved from belonging to believing. Now, faith is amazing because we can belong to something and then we start to believe in the things and the people that we belong to. The question is, what is the story that we are being given? That man was given a story. And the story that that man was given was that they are wrong and we are right. And in order to change that, you need to do something. Fast forward a few months, and this man is in prison because he did some things with that belief that he began, when he belonged, he began to believe a story. And that story changed the story in his head to such a degree that he actually began to act on the things that that story was telling him he could act on. Now, where does faith come into that? Well, for those of us who are people of faith, we can be passionate about what we believe in without being maximalist. In other words, saying that I believe in this and everything and everybody else is wrong. You can, even as a person of faith, say, I think this is right and I don't think that is right, but you can still believe in a way and behave in a way that is not exclusive, pushing people away or deciding to exert your belief on somebody else. And I've seen maximalist faith positions in religion and in secular narratives. It doesn't make any difference because we are designed to believe in something. And that belief, when we belong to a community, changes the story. And we live by the stories we tell ourselves or we are being told. So if you are a peace builder, if you're a person of faith, what can you do? Well, I think the best place to be, if you have this inclination to believe that faith actually is a driving force in people's lives, is to say to yourself, actually, I want to put myself not as the savior, but actually as a peacemaker. And making peace is harder than keeping peace, I think, because if you've got to make something, you've got to mix things up a bit. You've got to put the ingredients in the pot. We have to be secure enough in our own belief to say that even if it's challenged, and even if I find somebody challenging, I'm not going to force anything on them or against them, but I'm just going to live in peace. And talking to this man, he comes out of prison, and I asked him, what do you need? What do you want? What was going on? And he gives the superficial answers to start off with. But what was taking place was he felt alone. He felt disconnected. He felt his life didn't mean anything. He felt that he didn't have anybody that he could walk the journey with. And if you and I know anything about faith, faith gives us a sense of belonging, gives us a sense of meaning, and gives us a sense of purpose. But we're seeing faith being politicized. We're seeing faith become identity politics. We're seeing faith used as a flag. We're seeing a muscular kind of faith, which is more about having power over somebody and something as a political or a social project, rather than this thing of love that we see in the greatest of our faith traditions. Really hard. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be faith. We need faith to have faith, to believe in God, to believe that there's a way to go ahead. That doesn't mean we're weak, doesn't mean we're wishy-washy, but we're committed to these principles of faith and of peace. And in talking to this guy, it became clear that the simple things that he wanted are the things I believe that are dare I say, divinely put into the order and the fabric of life. Meaning, purpose, creating something, being part of a community that creates something. You see it patterned in the texts of Holy Scriptures. These things where we're made in the image of something, for something, to do something, because something matters, something that is bigger than ourselves, but we are part of something bigger and outside of ourselves. It's not about the individual, it's about the collective. We as individuals work in that collective. And it didn't take long for him to come to the place to realize that all he did was what he was naturally designed to do, which is to want to believe in something and act on that belief. I think the danger is not the fact that people can easily believe. The danger is, what are they believing? So what does that mean for our faith communities? We've got to put ourselves in the places and in relationships where people want to believe something. It doesn't mean that we say that they're wrong to start off with, because they might be. Actually, people want to be seen, heard, and understood. And to spend enough time with somebody with an open, humble heart to actually hear things that we may find really jarring, really, really difficult, and actually just be present. A mentor of mine, he's long passed away now. I used to say to him, what do I do when there's so much pain with other people? And he said, just be present. Be the last one in the room. Don't walk away. Just be with them. Because it's not about being cleverer than anybody else. It's about being present. It's about being seen. If being clever was the prerequisite to sorting all the problems out in the world, there's enough clever people should be sorted by now. I think it's probably, that's very important, but I think it's about being present and about sticking and about being there and about creating a sense of belonging. Because when people feel safe in their belonging, they start to do the next thing, which is believing. When they start to move from believing, they start to do. But I think sometimes you want people to behave differently, to believe something different, and then you can belong. I think it's the other way around. You're a bridge builder, it's about belonging, believing, then behaving. I tell you what I'd like to do so much of the time. I just want people to behave differently. I just want to say, just do that. But I know I can't earn the right for that conversation until they feel safe enough when they've belonged to begin to believe differently. And that takes time. For those of you that have read parts or all of the Christian text and the Jewish text, there's this principle in the book of Genesis, which means beginnings. And it said, as long as the earth remains, there will be seed, time, and harvest. The challenge is this. I want the harvest straight away, the change. But there's two steps before that. Seeding. And the next one's so difficult.
Waiting.
Time, patience, yeah. Seed, time, harvest. It's so, so difficult. And as people of faith, we need to give people the time. Now that means that you and I will be exposed to things, thoughts, people, expressions, opinions that we will probably violently internally disagree with, and we're trying not to show it. But actually standing in that space, it could be with your neighbours, it could be with people you know, or it could be a more formal environment. And this is where I think that faith has a real role, either in public square or behind the scenes in diplomacy and peacekeeping. Because I'm not saying that people who don't have faith can't do this, but I think those of us who do believe in something and have been believing in that for a long time seem to have an instinct to know what it means to use a biblical word again, abide. Or having done all, stand. Not run away, just be there. My experience of pain, my experience of conflict, yes, answers need to be had, steps need to be taken, 100%. But my experience says this as well. The hardest people in the world they still want to feel loved. There still is that desire for proximity, for presence. And it might sound like sweetness and nice and apple pie, but it's true. I remember sitting with, and I'll finish on this, I remember sitting with a handler for a people trafficker in a van in the back end of a country in Eastern Europe. He was a big man, and I'm a small man. And the van had meat hooks all around it. He used to hang people up and torture them for his leaders. And I remember sitting in the back of the van thinking, I wonder how, if I'm going to be on one of those hooks. And I said, why do you want to talk? And he said, I want to stop something. They were selling young girls into a certain industry. And there were different values put on those girls depending on how they were. And I said, why are you risking your life telling me where these girls are so that they can be rescued? And he said, because I don't really believe in myself. I don't like myself, but I can't get out. I need to do something. And I sat there and thought, I could have said to him, and he probably knew already, what you're doing is not good, is wrong, is bad, is evil, is horrible. He didn't need that. He knew it. He just needed the context and permission to be able to let that out. It wasn't me being clever. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. But it's just about being proximate. It's about presence. And I think I call it faithful presence. We can be faithfully present as part of, not the sole answer to, all that we see in the world. If you've got faith, you can be present. The diplomats can do the other stuff, the politicians can do the clever things, the law enforcement, the security services can all do the things they're brilliant at doing. But don't underestimate part of the puzzle that you play as being a person of faith.